All right. Hello, class. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to this week's module. We are here to talk about mindset. This specific video is going to be centered around mindset. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. So, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a PowerPoint here. And it's going to be a dark screen here for a moment, okay? It's the reason why is because I'm going to introduce somebody. So just don't exit out. The video's not over. I promise. There's still more content. Just stay with me here for a moment, okay? So the person I'm going to introduce to you is somebody that you all, I'm sure, either know well of, or you've heard the name, or you have some sort of memory with this person or some sort of connection with this person. Now, this person that I'm going to bring up experienced success at a really high level, which we're going to show here in a moment. And you know a lot of this person's accolades and the achievements that this person has had. But this person also experienced failure at a critical moment in development. And the failure that this person experienced could have resulted in a far different life path for this individual. This could have resulted in a couple different ways. And it really gave this person a choice. So when this individual experienced failure, he either could have given up. He could have decided, well, you know what? Maybe this thing that I was doing that I experienced failure wasn't right for me. Maybe I need to try something else. Maybe I just need to change my goals and I don't know, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Or this individual had another choice that he could have made, and that was understanding and realizing that yes, he experienced failure. Yes, it was an obstacle. It was a setback. But that's all it was. It was failure. It happens. It was an obstacle, but he can overcome it. And he's going to do everything he can to work around this, to overcome that obstacle, and to still reach his goals through strategies, through attitude, through something we like to call mindset. Now, this person that I'm talking about here is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, like I said, I think you all at least are familiar with the name, right? You know, Michael Jordan is a professional NBA athlete, arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. And that's to say something. There's been a lot of tremendous basketball players, but Michael Jordan has been pretty special. He had a special career, and I listed some of his accolades here on the screen so you can see some of them. 6-time NBA champion. So for those who follow basketball, especially at the professional level, you know that an NBA championship is the greatest team accolade you could receive. There's some basketball players who never earned an NBA championship. They never even made it to the championship game. Some of them are still playing, some of them retired, and they're legends, but they never even won a championship. And he did it 6 times. He was a huge reason why that the Chicago Bulls won 6 NBA championships. He was a 5-time MVP. So we're talking about somebody here who was voted the most valuable player in the league 5 different times. Probably could have won even more. But that's the highest accolade that an individual player could receive in terms of their statistics and their abilities on the court. 10-time NBA for all NBA first team. 14-time NBA All-Star, which, again, that's just unprecedented numbers. Those are numbers you don't see too often. And off the court, his Jordan brand, which a lot of you might know of him even for his business ventures, is worth $1.1 billion and probably worth even more. You know, at the time, you know, when I made this, it's probably worth even more. You know, his shoes have been incredibly successful. There's basketball teams and football teams that are wearing his branded uniforms. He's a worldwide success. So we're talking about somebody who here experienced success at the highest level. We're talking about somebody who has reached every single possible goal that you could reach when it comes to being a basketball player. Kids dream of being somebody like Michael Jordan. That we're talking about businesses that dream of being like the Jordan brand and being somebody as successful as him. And we're talking about someone like him who experienced failure at a pretty critical part of his childhood. And what I'm talking about is his tryout for a JV basketball team. Jordan got cut from his team. So we're talking about here somebody who's the greatest basketball player, arguably of all time, got cut from his JV basketball team, not even the varsity team, which is, even that would be questionable, but JV basketball? We're talking about Michael Jordan cut from JV basketball. That doesn't make sense. So obviously, the story goes that he was very upset, went home, was upset, talked with his mother. It's devastating. You work hard. One of your goals is to become an NBA basketball player, and I'm sure back then he had dreams of becoming, a great NBA player. And you can't make your JV basketball team. You get cut. That shows when you get cut from a sport, that means you weren't good enough to make the team. Not to start, doesn't mean to play. That means he wasn't even good enough to be on the bench. So that's why it's such a significant moment. Is he experienced failure at a pretty high, pretty, significant level, not even making a team. So Michael Jordan had two decisions to make in that moment. And I'm sure he can look back to that day. And that's a critical part in his development as a basketball player and his success. He had two choices. One is he could have said, maybe basketball, I'm just not really cut out for this. I can't even make the JV team. How am I going to make varsity, let alone make the NBA? How am I supposed to reach success here? Maybe I should change to another sport, or maybe I'm not cut out for athletics. I don't know. He could have thought that, right? He absolutely could have thought of that. And maybe all of us here have experienced something like that before, where maybe we've thought, maybe this is the time to quit. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. But actually, instead, he decided to go a different route. And what he did was, instead, he said, I'm going to work a little bit harder. And by that, I'm gonna stay outside. I'm gonna practice more. I'm gonna shoot free throws more. I'm gonna practice on every aspect of my game. I'm going to run more. I'm gonna work out more. I'm gonna get coached. I'm gonna try to find out what I did wrong. So that way, not only when the tryouts come back again, not only do I make the team, but I want to make an impact on the team. And I don't want to make this mistake again. And used it as a motivating force for him to reach his goals. So how does somebody do that? How does somebody go from a pivotal point in a decision to go from giving up or persevering and using a setback as motivation? Well, what I'm talking about here is a thing called mindset. Now, mindset's something I'm sure you've all heard thrown around. Maybe it was a parent, guardian, maybe an aunt and uncle, maybe they say something like, hey, come on, make sure you have a good mindset, have a healthy mindset. Remember, in order to reach success, you got to have a good mindset. I'm sure you've heard it. Maybe a teacher told you along the way, coach, something like that. And they're not wrong. But I think in a lot of ways, I think people don't really understand how deep it goes when thinking about and discussing the word mindset. There's a lot more than just think well and you'll achieve success. Be happy and you'll do well. It's a lot more than that. So let's talk about mindset and what it is. So there's a book that was written. It's called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, and it's written by Carol Dweck. It's not required for this class, but I highly recommend that you read this book. It's a life-changing book and just incredible read with just statistics and data and stories and just there's information in this book that will change the way that you approach everything in your life. And that's really what we're going to be talking about here in this lecture, is a lot of key points from Carol Dweck's book. So here's how Carol Dweck defines mindset. Now, before we do define this, I want you to take a moment and think about what you think mindset is. So maybe pause the video for a moment, think about it. What is mindset to you? And then when you're ready, go ahead and click play. But here's what Carol Dweck says. So Carol says, mindsets are beliefs about yourself and your most basic qualities. Think about your intelligence, your talents, your personality. Are these qualities simply fixed traits, carved in stone, and that's that? Or are they things that you can cultivate throughout your life? So Mindsets are obviously, from reading this, is about your approach and your attitudes and the way that you think about things, but she poses a really interesting question. So when she brings up your own intelligence and your talents and your personality, she asks this question here is, are these qualities fixed? Are they set in stone? Are they just they're just always there and they can't be changed? Or are they things that you can actually cultivate and change throughout your life? Interesting to think about, right? Well, what she's talking about here is two different types of mindset: growth versus fixed mindset. Now, we all of us have both. All of us have fixed, all of us have growth mindset, but it's important to know what each of them are. Let's first talk about fixed mindset. So, a fixed mindset is somebody who believes that their abilities, their talents, their knowledge, it's either always been there and it can't be changed, or their lack of abilities are also have always been there and it won't change. So here's maybe some familiar quotes you've maybe said yourself or heard other people say. When I'm frustrated, I give up. Failure is the limit of my abilities. I'm either good at it or I'm not. Feedback and criticism are personal. So it means that they're not ways to help you improve as a person. They're personal attacks against you as a person. I stick to what I know. My potential is predetermined. I don't like to be challenged. I can either do it or I can't. I'm either good at it or I'm not, right? So you might hear other people to add on to this. I'm not a math brain. I'm just not good at math. Or I'm not an English brain. I'm not good at writing papers. And it is what it is. But hey, I'm good at this subject, or I'm good at this subject. I'm just not good at this one. And I think a lot of people think that when they're saying those things, that they think that they're just being honest and truthful. They might say, hey, I'm just being real. But actually, you know what they're doing is they're having a fixed mindset. They're saying that I'm not good at math and I never will be. And that's okay. I'm just accepting who I am. But you know what? That's a fixed mindset, and it can be changed, and you can be good at these subjects with a growth mindset. It starts here. So on the other token, a fixed mindset is more positive. A growth mindset is more positive. A growth mindset would say, instead of failure is the limit of my abilities, failure is an opportunity to grow. Challenges help me to grow. I can learn to do anything I want. I like to try new things. I'm inspired by the success of others. Feedback is constructive. It's there to help me grow. My effort and attitude determine my abilities. So it's not so much like, hey, these are things that have been set in stone. I'm already good at it or I'm not. More along the lines of my hard work and my attitude, the way I approach something internally will determine my success. When somebody gives me feedback, it's something that is going to help me grow as a person. It's there to help me. I'm inspired by other people. I like to try new things. And so you can see it's more positive, and it's a way to attack a class or maybe an assignment or a job or a tryout. Having a growth mindset is the start. It's how everything else will come into place. As you can see, fixed mindset is a little bit more negative. Now, all of us have both. All of us have a fixed mindset in some areas, a growth mindset in other areas. So don't feel like we're just one or the other. We all have them both. But I also experience fixed mindsets as well. So when I was in high school, I struggled in math. Heavily struggled in math. I failed math a couple different times, and I almost didn't graduate from high school. I remember my counselor sat me down and said, you know what, Kirk, I don't know if you're going to graduate from high school unless you pass this math class. And I was put into this math class my senior year. I think it was just called math. It wasn't geometry, algebra. I think it was called math. And it was something there that I needed to pass in order to graduate. So looking back at it, was I a great student when it came to math? Not really. I had a fixed mindset. I told people I'm not a math brain. I was good in English, but I would tell people, I'm not good at math, though. I'm just not good at it. But if I really think about it, I would sit in the back of the class. I didn't raise my hand. I was embarrassed. If I got an F on a paper, it just further solidified my feelings about being bad at math. If I saw somebody else doing well in the class, it just made me feel more insecure. I just would think, oh gosh, I wish I was as smart as they were with math. Or, I wouldn't go to tutoring because I thought, what's the point? I really saw it as, let me just get through this because I got to get through it. And that was a fixed mindset. But now once I got to college, I started to change my ways of thinking without knowing I was going into a growth mindset. But I started to think, well, if this student can get an A or this student can get an A, why can't I get an A? What are they doing different that I'm not doing? So I talked to some students. I started doing things a little different. I studied more. I actually set time aside. I used some time management skills to set time in my schedule to do well in my class, so I'd work on it a little bit more. I went to tutoring, even if I was doing well or if I knew the subject, just to make sure I was mastering it, the chapter or the unit. I would ask questions, not being afraid if I got it wrong or how I looked, because the teachers want you to succeed and students don't judge you that way. Chances are your question's going to be somebody else's question. So, I ask more questions. If I didn't get something right, I would ask a student, how did you get that answer? If I didn't do well on a test, it made me think, well, maybe I didn't study right for that one. I would talk to the teacher. How can I study different? What am I doing wrong here? So by changing my mindset and telling myself, okay, I need to change these strategies, and also thinking, I can do this, I can get an A, it did change. I actually got B's and A's in all my math classes in college. And it wasn't because all of a sudden I turned 18 and all of a sudden I was good at math. Hey, this is great. I turned 18, 19, I was good at math. No. What happened was I changed my mindset and I changed the way I approached the class. And it was something that I could control. It was a choice I had to make. It wasn't out of my control. I could change the way that I attacked each class, and it changed significantly my experience with my classes. So I want you all to think about success, right? Because this class is heavily determined on how to be a successful student. But I want you all to think of success as an iceberg. And I know I've already used an iceberg earlier in this class, especially when we were talking about resources. But I want to bring it up again because it is such a perfect image, and it's a perfect way to really capture a meaning behind something. It's a great metaphor. So I want us to think about an iceberg here as a symbol of success. So on the surface level, this is what people can see, right? So this is what we can all see. We can see when someone graduates from college, we can see their diploma or them landing a job. We can see somebody like, let's say, Michael Jordan winning an NBA championship, hosting up that trophy. Or, we can see his brand being sold at the mall and we think, gosh, wow, I'd love to have my brand on a t-shirt someday. Or we see somebody, maybe driving an expensive car, maybe a car we'd like to have, or maybe living in a home that we'd love to live in, or just being comfortable. Whatever you think success is, and you've seen people that you would deem successful living their lives, you've seen it on the surface. You've seen what determines success. Now, here's what people don't see, which is beneath the surface. This is internal. These are all the things that happen that lead to success. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's not just things are gifted to you and you're successful. We got to work for it. So anybody you see that is successful, there was a lot that went into it, especially someone like Michael Jordan, especially someone who wants to be a successful student. If you want to graduate, you want to have good grades, you want to be successful in college, well, all of these things beneath the surface internally need to happen for you to reach that. So here's a couple things. Dedication, hard work, good habits. You will experience disappointment. You will have to sacrifice. You will experience failure, and you will have to persist through these obstacles to reach success. But as you can see, the iceberg is larger underneath the surface, right? It's larger here than it is up here because this is a lot more down here than it is up here. It's going to take a lot more work to reach your end goals. But this all starts with mindset. It starts with a growth mindset, being positive, and taking some of those notions I talked about earlier with our attitude and the way we frame our attitudes towards our classes. It's going to take dedication. It's going to take going to tutoring centers. It's going to take hard work, to extra time throughout the week studying on our papers and going to tutors and talking to professors, developing good habits, going to sleep on time, using some of those time management skills we've learned about already, right? You will experience disappointment. It will happen. You're not going to get a grade on an assignment you wanted to get. or let's even say you experience failure. Let's say you get an F on an assignment, or you're someone like Michael Jordan who absolutely gets cut from a team, or don't do well at your job. There are going to be failures, but it's how do we respond to those failures? Are we going to persist through those? Are we going to persevere and overcome the obstacle with a growth mindset? Or are we going to have a fixed mindset and crumble and give up and drop out of a class, or give up on that job, or give up on that goal of ours? This all comes from the way we think about and attack each things in our lives. And that comes back to mindset every single time. It all starts with mindset. In order to be dedicated, in order to have hard work, we got to have a growth mindset. So I want you to think about something. I want you all to identify in your lives areas that you have a fixed mindset and areas in your life that you have a growth mindset. And like I said, we all have both. So don't feel like if you have a fixed mindset, then you are a solely fixed person. That's not true. There's areas in your life that you have growth, and there's areas in your life you have fixed mindsets. But I want you to identify those. If it's something related to school, maybe you are like me and your fixed mindsets with math, or maybe it's English, or maybe it's this class. I don't know. Whatever you have a fixed mindset with, identify it and acknowledge it's there. Okay? It could be even a relationship, family, or just, with a loved one. It could be at a job, it could be anywhere. And then think about areas that you have a growth mindset in as well. And I want you to think about why you have a growth mindset and what are things that you're doing different in those two areas. Okay? Now, how do we change from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset? Well, the first thing to do is to become aware of your fixed mindset voice. So when you start to hear those things in your mind, right? When you start to hear that voice in your head saying, oh, okay, we have a test coming up. Here we go. I am going to struggle on this test. Oh, I'm going to pray that I get at least a passing grade, or that worry that sets in of I'm not prepared, I'm not this, or I'm not good at this. That's a fixed mindset. And become aware of it and combat it with a growth mindset voice. Try to talk back to it. Realize that it can be changed. So if you hear yourself say, hey, I'm not good at this, add the word yet at the end of it. I'm not good at math yet. Because what that symbolizes is that you can be good at math. You just need to go to tutoring. Maybe you need to study a little bit differently. Maybe you need to talk to the teacher a little bit more. Putting that word yet at the end of any sentence that you have a fixed mindset with will change the way that you approach that class or that job or that relationship. Because what you're saying is that you have a choice and you have the ability to change. That your lack of math skills is just is something that can be changed. It's just a thing that's momentarily in place. You can be good at math. You might be saying, well, I'm not a good student. That's why I'm taking this class. Awesome. It begins with a mindset. It begins with saying, I will be a good student. I'm going to have a growth mindset, and here's how I'm going to accomplish these goals. And we're going to talk about that through this class. But I want you to begin to combat those fixed mindset voices in your head with a growth mindset voice. Utilize the growth mindset strategies and frame of mind. So growth mindset strategies are more positive ways of thinking. It's saying, hey, if I get feedback on an assignment that's telling me, hey, you did this wrong, try to work on this, don't take it personal. Take it as, hey, this is somebody who's trying to help me to become better at this particular thing or this assignment or this job or this skill. Don't take it personal. They're trying to help. That's a growth mindset strategy. It's also somebody who sees failure as an obstacle or a challenge to help them get better. It gives them an opportunity to learn more, to say, okay, obviously I failed here. That's okay. People fail. I'm going to grow. I'm going to figure out what did I do wrong, figure out how to fix that, and I'm going to get better from this. So I don't make that mistake again because I want to succeed. That's a growth mindset strategy and frame of mind. And always to recognize that you will always have a choice. Mindset is something that really stems from you either thinking you do or you don't have a choice. If you think you don't have a choice with something, that's a fixed mindset. You're saying, it's set in stone. It is what it is. There's no way getting around this. I'm a hopeless case. You might have heard people say it. Maybe you said that. Oh, I'm hopeless with math. Oh, I'm not a good writer. Just help me pass. Just tell me what I need to do to get a C grade. Is that really becoming a successful student? Is that really attacking that class or that opportunity in your life with all your steam and focus and hard work? Is that really doing that? Not really. That's a fixed mindset. But instead saying, you know what? I have a choice to decide how I approach this situation. You always have a choice. And remember that mindset, like I said, is not always fixed or growth. It's on a continuum. It can change and it will change. And you have the opportunity to change it. So there might be a day where you have a little bit more of a fixed mindset, and at the end of the day, it might be a little bit more of a growth mindset. You might be more motivated in this week and a little less motivated the other week. That can be normal. It can happen. It can fluctuate, but it's important to be aware of it and know that you can change it and you have the power to change it. You can. Not other people, but you. Mindset is a choice. It may seem like you don't have any questions, but you always do. I had a choice every day I walked into that class. For that math class, I had a choice, and I did make a choice when I was in high school. Every day to sit in back of the class, I made a choice to not ask questions. I made a choice internally to be offended by negative feedback, and I made a choice to be threatened by the success of others, to be embarrassed, and to be the student I was. I could have been a lot different. I could have walked into that class with a choice to say, I'm going to do everything I can to pass this class, and I will pass this class. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to sit in the front of the class, and I am going to go to tutoring and ask other students how did they get their work. Those are choices that you have to make. Just recognize that it is up to you. And also know that change doesn't happen overnight. I'm not saying that, hey, have a growth mindset and the next day you will reach all levels of success. That's not true either. It's not going to happen quickly, but it's a gradual change. It's strategies you're implementing. And we're learning a lot of these in our class, from time management. We're going to be learning about study skills and test taking strategies and how to set the proper types of goals. But just know that it all starts with your mindset. Are you going to be fixed? Are you just going to think, hey, it is what it is, I can't change it? Or are you going to start it off with a growth mindset? And from there, that's where change will eventually take place, is once you start with that growth mindset. Now, here's a couple examples of some famous failures you probably know of that are just some more examples. And we've already talked about Michael Jordan, right? He was cut from his high school basketball team. We've already mentioned that. But this guy here, I'm sure you've all recognized this face. This is Walt Disney. He was fired. Now we know Walt Disney. First of all, we know who he is, right? He's a creator and founder of the Walt Disney Company, makes movies and cartoons and comics. And I mean, we're talking about one of the most successful global phenomenons of all time. Everybody knows Disney, incredibly influential. They own Marvel and they own ABC and ESPN, they own everything. Well, Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper company for lacking creativity and imagination. And you might be thinking, is that true? It's true. Now, here's the thing that's crazy, is you would all think, well, when I think of Walt Disney, I think imagination. I think when I think of the word innovation, I think of Walt Disney. Well, he got fired for lacking those things. Now, again, he had a choice to make. He could have said, you know what, maybe this whole line of work isn't meant for me. Maybe I should get involved in something else. Maybe I should change career paths here because maybe I wasn't really meant to be in the creative field. Or he could keep a growth mindset and say, well, I'm not going to give up. This is an obstacle. I'm going to persevere through it. I'm going to work harder, and I am still going to reach my goals. This is my passion. This is what I'm going to continue to do. And again, that all comes back to a growth mindset. So he, very much like Michael Jordan, persevered through obstacles, through failure. Back to the Future, I think one of the greatest trilogies of all time. The script was rejected. The writer who wrote Back to the Future had a script rejected 40 times before being greenlit. 40 times. That's a lot. And that's a pretty original, interesting, fun movie script. Even if you don't like Back to the Future, you got to admit it's a pretty fun script and highly successful. I mean, the movies were a success. I mean, they made theme park rides out of it. But as you can see, it experienced failure before it reached success. And again, the writer they had a choice to make after they got rejected even the first 5 times, even the first time. They could have easily crumbled and said, well, maybe I shouldn't be really writing. Maybe this whole script writing thing isn't meant for me. Or they persevere, they push through it, they keep a growth mindset and say, hey, this is an obstacle, this is a setback. I'm going to persevere, I'm going to keep pushing forward, I'm going to learn from this. What could I do different next time? What could I do different? How can I keep pushing forward? So that's a failure that ended up in a success. Now here's somebody else too. This is Albert Einstein. And we all know, incredibly intelligent. And this was, rumors through the community, people that were close to Albert Einstein at an early age said that, he was a little bit late in some of his development. He didn't speak too much really until he was about 4 years old. And even he had some teachers that were on record saying that they didn't think he would amount to much. They thought he would really struggle. And we're talking about somebody here who is incredibly intelligent, also too experienced failure to a degree there. And people, didn't have expectations of him. And again, he could have thought, well, maybe I'm not a good student. Maybe I should really try to go into another line of work, or maybe I should put my focuses elsewhere. That would have been a fixed mindset. But Albert Einstein displayed a growth mindset and didn't give up and didn't listen to that didn't listen to the negative feedback, didn't crumble with a failure or with negative remarks. Instead, he persevered. Now, I'm not saying that all of us will always experience failure, but when we do, the question is, how will you respond? And I can tell you right now that you will be able to overcome your failures or your obstacles or your challenges a lot better when you can bring in a growth mindset. So I want to challenge you all to, again, this week, as you go through this week and you learn more about mindset and you continue, and we have an assignment attached to it and a discussion board, but I want you all to continue to think about those areas in your life that you have a growth mindset and you have a fixed mindset. And I want you to begin to think of ways that you can fix those growth mindsets. You can fix those fixed mindsets and you can turn those to a growth mindset. I want to challenge you that this week. And again, as this class theme is about becoming a successful student, just know that it's not all just study skills and it's not all time management skills. A lot of it is the way that we think and the way we formulate our attitudes. And mindset is a huge contributor to success. Thanks for watching, and we will talk soon. Take care, everyone.